Okay.
So don't start just now. Start when we are about to begin.
I'm unable to record this session. I can't see the icon.
It is recording. I can see it.
Okay, so you are recording it?
No, I think Navodita is.
No, I guess Alka is doing the recording.
Then Alka is, because it is showing recording.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
it's
Alka is doing that.
from my side.
Alka
Yes.
is the host.
Thank you, Alka.
Alka is recording it.
Thank you,
So
Alka.
Alka just create a few co-hosts also. That will be
Yes,
helpful.
ma'am. Yeah, that would be great.
Yeah. So stop the recording now. Do the recording once we start.
This meeting is being recorded.
Okay.
Hello. Good evening, everyone. Happy Women's Day to everyone present here. Today, I welcome you to the audio session of the book The Second Wife and Other Stories. I am Kirti Priya from Jharkhand, Bokaro, a literature scholar and a student of Nandini ma'am, and today I will be the host of this event. Let's welcome our MEC professor Nandini ma'am and congratulate her for her book The Second Wife and Other Stories. Let
Thank
me
you
now
so much.
start by
Yes, go on.
Let me now start by telling a little about her. Nandini ma'am teaches at Bharati College in Delhi University. She's a writer and a social commentator. She's the recipient of Charles Wallace Fellowship in Travel and Research in London and has also been awarded the Ambassador for Peace Prize by United Peace Federation for her work in educating slum dwellers. Some of her publications include Mahashweta Devi, Critical Perspectives, and Through the Diasporic Lens. She has also been featured in the literary journals like The Elusive Genre and The Muse, and also in the Australia-India collaboration, The Glass Walls. Nandini ma'am has been helpful and interactive in her sessions with her students, and it's a great opportunity to have her here and know more about her journey. We also have Nilufar Sen present with us today. Nilufar Sen is a writer and has done her post-graduation in journalism and mass communication from Xavier Institute of Communications, Bombay, and holds an MA in screenwriting from the London Film School. She currently produces documentary films with her husband through their filmmaking company, Visual the Quay, and is the literary editor at housing.com and Cactus Communications. Nilufar is passionate about theatre and has trained with Danish Iqbal. Now, Nilufar will take over the session. Thank you.
Thank you, Kirti. Thank you so much for that. For people who joined in later, I will add a little bit more to that, which Nandini ma'am said at the beginning. That is that I'm not just someone who knows her, I've also been her student. So it is an opportunity of great pride for me to be present here today and have this conversation with her. Also, just to correct that, the company is called Visual Tech. Okay, so going ahead, as Kirti said, that I did train to be a journalist. So let me start with the journalism 101 question. Ma'am, आपको कैसा लग रहा है?
That is the quintessential journalism question they taught you, Nilofar. Seriously.
No, they didn't need to teach it.
Well, मुझे बहुत अच्छा लग रहा है, particularly क्योंकि आप हैं मेरी पुरानी स्टूडेंट और मेरे अभी के स्टूडेंट्स भी साथ हैं, और इग्नू स्टूडेंट्स की खासियत ये है कि you know, you have students of all ages. So there are all, you have people of all ages, all, let me say, of all hues and colors who are present here. And I'm particularly grateful. Today is not their class, but 60 plus people have come over this evening to support my book writing. So very grateful and very happy that all of you are here. It makes a teacher feel very special. So thank you, all of you. Yeah. Nilofer, you're not audible. You have muted.
Sorry. No, I think someone else muted me, but anyway. So before we proceed, I would just like to request everyone that I'm sure during the course of this conversation, you all would also have your questions. Please write your questions in the chat box and we'll try to accommodate as many as possible. So going ahead, I think let's start with the very basic. We know that you've had academic publications. So what brought you to fiction writing?
Well, let me say that I have been writing for some time. But then I have, in my mind, I've got this kind of a distinction between academic writing and creative writing. And I feel that somehow the twain can never meet, as if they live in two different worlds. So I was writing, I've been writing, but then I never wanted to share my work. I never thought that they need ever to be shared. So one or times I wrote, and a few of my short stories got published here and there, but I never took any of that seriously at all. Till I think the Write India Award came in. So I actually entered a contest, and the times people thought that my work was good, and so then I think this whole business of storytelling started in the earnest, because people started asking me these questions. So how do you write, and so on and so forth. So and finally this particular publication I owe to a friend who actually pushed me into publishing it. So literally forced me to come out of the closet, if I can if I can use this term. So that's how it happened. So yeah, if that answers your question. And meanwhile, thank you, Rimisha. I'm seeing the message here.
Yes. And in fact, then in that case, we all are thankful to this friend of yours who pushed you into getting your work published. So since we're on the book now, getting right into the stories, there are stories of various styles. The common thread is it's about a woman, but the various shades. Not all stories are very happy stories. There are some very dark stories for people who may not have got through the entire book as yet. There are some very feel good stories. There are some very dark stories. There are various facets of women. So, what got you writing these stories? Where did these stories come from?
To kind of quote a cliche, these stories came from women around me. So someone like you, someone like all the women who I see here, women I've grown up with, my mom, my grandmother, my, friends, relatives, aunts, people around me, my domestic helps. So if you have noticed that none of these stories talk about great successes, because I don't kind of believe in that. I believe that a struggle that a woman faces is a continuous struggle. It's, you don't sort of become a Miss India or a Miss Universe or something very, very grand. Maybe you were trying to write something and you write that one paragraph. You were trying to put your child into school, failing multiple times, and finally manage. You were trying to, so every day sort of struggles that we have. We cannot at any point of time say, oh, now we have arrived. No, it's a daily struggle. So I talk about these daily struggles that I see around me, which sometimes they are dark, because I see more failures than successes. And I see successes. So my stories are not about successes or failures. My stories are more about the agency that the women show. The very fact that these women have agency, the very fact that they want to steer their lives in a certain manner, that to me is very important. And that is what I show. That is what I write about, because these are real people that I meet around me. These are people I know. These are people, and they inspire me. So, if I can give you an example, so I know this Malishwali in, in where my mom lives, who does a malish for 70 rupees per malish. That is how sasta the whole business is. Now, that lady has walked out of her house because her husband was a drunkard with two small children. And she has, in these so many years, struggled and finally has been able to give both her kids some education. Now, obviously, her son or daughter are not going to be, the typical doctor, engineer, or whatever professions that we think and dream about in the middle classes. But for that woman to have walked that path, to have been able to walk out of that house where she was being abused, and to make a life for both her children, and now she's trying to build a house where all three of them are carrying bricks and fixing it and trying to build that house. So to me, those struggles are what I see, and she then becomes the heroine of my work. The fact that she's been able to battle all this and get where she has got. But of course, unlike cinema, I don't show her as this everything is good and hunky-dory, because it's a continuous struggle, just as your life would be like, just as my life, just as everybody who's here. It's a daily struggle for survival. For women, it is doubly, like I keep saying, women are twice colonized. So the struggle then becomes doubly tough. So I think that's what I talk about.
Yeah. And in fact, just picking up on that thought, in a lot of ways, I personally would define that as success in itself. The To have that agency to take that step
Absolutely.
in
Absolutely.
whichever direction you feel is best for your life, that itself is success in a lot of ways.
Couldn't agree more, because to me that success is way more than what we see in the tinsel town kind of success. So which is my stories are real. They're based out of real life stories. Like I keep saying, people I see around me, I talk about them.
True, true. In fact, yes, there were a lot of stories which the incidents may not be very familiar, but yes, there were times where I could point out that maybe I know a character like that, or I know a person like that. So yes, there was that familiarity. Um, if we just broaden this out a little, since you've been writing for some time and now it's the fiction part is published and you've had your academic publications as well, what's your writing process? Like, I know every author has his or her own writing process, but how does it work for you?
uh, Works very sporadically, erratically. um, it's just all over the place. So sometimes the story sits with me for the longest period of time before I'm able to pen anything down. Sometimes the story is just playing out in my head and I'm not writing anything, which is the fate of most things. I write very less, I think much more. So there is no process to this madness. It's just there. But there is a cacophony of voices in my head. There are multiple voices which are talking. There are stories. There are, sometimes I keep thinking, if there was some mechanism where my thoughts could get converted into write-ups and like saving me the trouble to write them down, then there are multiple stories. And I think, or so my friends tell me, and I've tortured quite a few of them by my art of storytelling. I've been a storyteller. I love telling stories. So even a most insignificant event, I think I can, even when I'm chatting, can create that into a story. So yeah, I wish I had a process. I think that is something I need to work towards. Right now I'm juggling, I'm doing too many things. my teaching, my academic work, the works. So in all of this, I manage to write what I write. So that's how it works for me. So there is no process. But I need to get that process in very soon. Not happened
Yes,
today.
I can vouch. I can vouch for the fact that you're a storyteller, because I do remember our classrooms where they were just not restricted to the text that you were teaching us, and it was so much more than just that text. It opened a different perspective for us just through storytelling. So yes,
Yeah.
I can vouch for that. There is something that Kirti has asked, and in fact, I wanted to ask you the same, that a lot of these stories felt like they were just seeds. There are more to these stories. So, are there any particular stories in this book, or any thoughts from this book which you would like to flower out further into a novella or a novel or any kind of a bigger piece?
Yes, I have. This is part of the reader response. Some people said they want to see Keke developed into something bigger. Some people have said that they want the second wife. It seems like a drama unfolding. So what exactly happens? Mercy tells me that she likes the sapphire ring, and that told her a story. So yes, I think a lot of these could actually work out to be full-fledged novels. But I will have to, before that, train myself as a writer to be able to write, to get into that process. But yes, I am contemplating it. Yes. So they will have to, a novel has to come out.
Oh, we'd be very happy to see one of these or multiple of these turned into bigger stories. And yes, the one about Kaikei was one of my very favorites. That was a very different perspective on the lady that we know, and I would definitely want to see that in a bigger format. Uh, which also made me think that all these stories, yes, the woman is the central piece of each story, but you never move out from the perspective of the woman either. Like if I were to talk about lipstick, for people who may have read this would understand what I'm saying. If you've not read it, I'm so sorry about the spoiler, but lipstick had enough scope to go into the LGBTQ domain, and yet it was not the story about this individual, it was the story about the mother. So you never shift from that perspective. How easy or how difficult is it to rein it in when you have a subject like that?
So I think this struggle of the mother to understand a teenager, or to understand what is happening of the child. See here, the child is extremely close to you, and you are extremely close to the child. But then there comes that stage, and I have met many women, and when they reach that stage when that child who was cleaving to them is suddenly an individual in his or her own right, and then the mother does not understand this child anymore, and there's deep pain. It also comes from one of my favorite writers' stories. Maybe some of you have read Mahashweta Devi's Hazar Churasi Ki Ma. The Bengali version, the original version is Hajar Churashir Ma, and then it's also been made into a cinema, which is uh, absolutely brilliant. So there is this thing of this boy growing up and being very close to the mother, and then eventually dies because of the path that he chooses, and then the mother's quest to understand her child. She tries to make sense of why her son does what he does, and that quest. So when I started writing about this boy, uh, I could have concentrated, like you very correctly tell me, about the struggles of this boy as to how he manages his life. But I thought to focus on this woman who's a single mother, who only has this one child and nobody else apart from him. And then the path that she has to walk in order to be able to understand that child. And uh, if you have noticed, because this is something that I believe and I talk to my students all the time, so maybe this resonates with you. I keep talking about sisterhood. See, there are a few things about feminism that I keep talking about. One, of course, is agency. The second one is sisterhood, that women need to be there to hold each other up. And I strongly believe in that. So, so to me, that this woman uh, eventually she does, I mean, what happens to the son we don't know, but she finds a fellow traveler who is able to bring her back into the world of living. You know, she'd almost become a dead, I mean, she was alive but she was half dead, and for her to come back, for her to be able to understand her son, there was another woman who does it. So I thought that was something that was something that I wanted to explore. That you know, there's so much that happens in your lives, but sometimes even a stranger, sometimes just that one woman who'll just hold your hand and say, I can understand where you're coming from. That makes a world of difference. So and being a little partial, or being entirely partial to academics, I do look at academic women as women because they read so much. There's that knowledge that is there. So maybe then they can be the vessels for change. Like I said, I'm being partial. It does not have to be an academic woman, but in this case, the vessel for change was this girl who was a PhD scholar. So so like I said, you know, it all comes from people that I know and people that I see around me. Um, so yeah, so I do keep the focus on women, maybe because I understand women more than the workings in a man's mind. I don't know, though the first story is from a man's perspective.
It is, and yet it is the woman who becomes the agency for him to relive that entire story and come to his, whether you call it self-realization or um, whatever you may want to term it. But the agency is that one woman there.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So I got a
Um,
message from Shabnur, who's asking me, which part of the book did you have the hardest time writing? um, well, there was one story which became a bit of I had a roadblock of sorts, which I didn't know how to end. That was that story about, yeah. So that was the story about the cat and that girl, and who becomes fat, and you know, the one in the hotel and stuff. So I think that story I struggled with for a bit, because also because it was a little unknown territory for me. I sometimes feel, I don't know if you guys noticed it, but sometimes I do feel that maybe I live too much with my books and I don't really know how the Insta generation and Gen Z, what is happening of them. So I think I need to learn that bit a little more. So yeah, that bit I found a little difficult to negotiate.
we have another interesting question from Kirti. She mentions that um, you wrote in your acknowledgement that you yourself were from a patriarchal household. Did that experience help you in writing these stories?
Oh yes, Kirti, it did. So when I say, see, we all come from I mean, patriarchy is overarching. We cannot, I mean, we do not have a setup which is free from patriarchal sort of, you know, um, from patriarchy per se. But yes, come from a very interesting setup. So on the one hand, I had one set of relations who I was extremely close to, who were liberals and who didn't believe in a lot of things, and didn't believe in God, and didn't believe in and believed in books and so on. And another part of the family which was extremely traditional, and you know, women had to be were schooled to be of a certain kind, and you had to behave in a certain manner, and this and that. And I rebelled right from when I was very young. So a lot of rebellion was in person, and a lot of rebellion was also in my head, because I knew that if I speak too much, somebody's going to really pull me up. So a lot of rebellion was in my head, because I used to be reading all the time. and getting into trouble because I read so much. So yes, I heard things like इसकी शादी कैसे होगी, पूरा टाइम किताब पढ़ती रहती है, और she's studying all the time, or things like look at all these girls. I used to be compared to all these fair girls in my family. I was dark and they were fair, and how much easier would it be for them to get married, and how much tougher it would be for me to get married. So we did have these discussions, and the fun part was, and today I see it, that our elders don't think of children as people who can understand, and who are thinking people. They talk, I mean, all of this conversation used to happen right in front of me. Nobody bothered to do it behind closed doors. And my rebellion was, in my mind, of course I couldn't speak it aloud, in my mind was that, to hell with you, I'm not listening to you, and I'm going to do just what I please. But like I said, it was always in my mind. I could not articulate all or any of it, because then I would be severely punished. And then, of course, I used to also pick up, I used to do these jhagras once in a while, and I used to, and I was very vocal. So I used to get reprimanded. So yeah, so there were these things, and then I realized a lot of fun stuff also. So while my grandmother used to kind of, my maternal grandmother, she used to be the one who used to tell me that, oh, she doesn't do this, oh, she's always reading, oh, she'll go blind, oh, who will marry her? And then she used to point to this cousin who was fair, and whatever that cousin was doing. Much later in my life, we realized that to that cousin, she used to say, oh, look at her, she's so bright, she does so well in exams, she's going to do so well in life, and look at you. So she was playing both of us, so that also was happening. A lot. So like I said, it's all of that which I think added to the richness of my existence, let me put it that way. And one also realizes that these so-called women who take it upon themselves, and in The Second Wife, I have a character like that, who in front of the society always does what is expected out of her, but in her own mind she's thinking something else. So you also have those women who are avant-garde maybe in their thinking process, but in front of the society, they want to maintain a certain kind of demeanor and a certain kind of, behavior to be accepted. So you have so many faces of womanhood that we see before us, and and patriarchy, which determines these kinds of womanhood. So I think then I tried to explore all of that.
Yeah, and that would be so relatable, even to all the women who are present here today and listening to you, that we've all had these incidents and we've all had these moments of rebellion where, at least I've had very similar incidents where I've been either very vocal about my rebellion, or it's happened in my head constantly, but I knew better not to speak up. So yeah. Moving into a little more practical domain, and I'm guessing there would be people here who would like to know about that journey as well, is what is the publishing process like? How does one get published?
So that is a tricky one, Nilofer. And yes, to all the budding writers here, I'm sure there are many. So in my case, I can tell you what happened. So this friend that I was talking about, who forced me to write, also found me a book agent. So effectively, the manuscript was given to the book agent, who then took it forward, and the publishers picked it up. And I was lucky that I had an excellent editor working with me, a very accomplished editor, who kind of, whose thought process and mine were in tandem. So then the whole process fell into place. But so for me, it wasn't very difficult really. It was relatively easy. But then, but yeah, what played spoil sport was the pandemic. So the book took a lot of time in taking shape. I mean, it was all done, but then because of the pandemic, things got delayed and derailed for the longest period of time, and then it eventually fell into place. But otherwise, I think, for youngsters and for everyone, people who are writing, people who are creative, these days you can even self-publish, you can publish with Amazon, you can publish with whoever. I mean, like I had a lot of hang-ups, like I'm saying, having been in the business for so long, having been teacher to so many people, you would think, how would people pick up my book? And, you feel that you have to live up to a certain sort of, so I would suggest don't have any of that hang-ups. Just be very honest with what you think and what you write. And every kind of writing has a different kind of market. So if you're blogging, there is a market who people who will enjoy what the blogger is doing. And it doesn't always have to be in the fanciest of language or the best of English. No, because then that's where your editor can step in and can help you. So my advice, if I can give my two penny worth of advice, is that write. um, just go ahead and write. And there are various ways for publication. Just go ahead with anything that comes your way. I mean, you don't have to be very picky and choosy, and things will fall into place. But the first thing has to be done is you have to have done the writing process. That is important. So yeah.
Right. So just getting a little more into it. So once an editor comes on board, and as a writer, you would understand that I have faced it a couple of times, is once an editor comes on board, how difficult is it to at times let go? Because now there is someone else who is trying to almost tell you how to raise your child.
I couldn't have put it better, Nilofer. The first time I talked to my editor, I wanted to murder her and give up writing and not have anything to do with her or with the book. But then slowly we made peace. And like I said, I Googled her and I saw that she was a person of great caliber. Um, but um, but like I said, and you put it very beautifully, that it's someone else raising your child, or trying to raise your child, and it is a tough one. But she said something very interesting to me, which I didn't forget. So she says even Salman Rushdie had an editor. And so I said, okay. So like I said, it wasn't an easy process to let go. And it took its own time. It took me a lot of time to adjust to this kind of thing. I mean, and also because you're so full of yourself now, you are the teacher, you are the professor. Suddenly, somebody's cutting out your words and putting something else. I mean, it is not easy to even allow something like that to happen. But then slowly and steadily, and I think eventually, if you build up a rapport, it helps. And I think eventually that's what happened. So then I started trusting her, because I figured that she understood where I was coming from. So then one could let go and get round to working that out. But yeah, it's tough, it's not easy, that I'll admit.
So would you have some guidelines? I wouldn't call tips, everything is a tip today, but any guidelines of what to look out for and what to be wary about when you're going through this entire process?
uh, the publication process, you mean?
The publication process, I mean, because when someone else is telling you that a certain part or a certain section of the story needs to be changed, modified, but you also have written it from a certain perspective. Where do you agree and where do you draw the line?
It is like it's a similar process of a back and forth as you would do with your PhD supervisor. So you feel you've done everything, and the supervisor says this is absolute nonsense. It needs to go. You still write it because you feel it is important. That person still. So it is a give. It's a back and forth. It'll and then if there is something which you feel very strongly about that no, this cannot go, then you just have to put your foot down. That fag end of the day, this is my work, and I'm not going to let it go like this. So like I said, it's a negotiation. It's a process of negotiation, and you have to have, I think, your gut feeling. Fag end of the day, the gut feeling which says
Right.
yes, here I will accept it. No, here I will not. So that's the way.
Right. 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 I will quickly want to check with Kirti and Alka. How much time do we have?
Okay, meanwhile, I will answer Shaheen's question. Shaheen says, ma'am, how to practice writing, as people always used to say, if you want to write, first read as much as you can. And what kind of book genre? And you said you are an avid reader. So what's your favorite genre? So Shaheen, I read everything. I am a voracious reader. So even if the most drab magazine is kept next to me, which is probably even if somebody will keep a medical journal next to me, which I won't make head nor tails of it, I'll end up reading it because it's just that habit. So my favorite genre, I love romance, and I love a good love story. Believe you me. That's the kind that I watch on Netflix also. I love all kinds of love stories, very mushy ones. Um, uh, but I also I can talk about the authors who have influenced me, and whose glimpses probably you will find in my work. So, like I said, Mahashweta Devi, one author who have worked majorly on, and therefore have read her very closely. Another author, Asha Purna Devi, she writes in Bangla, and her works were very powerful, and they remained with me. And then, of course, then authors like Chitra Divakuruni or Salman Rushdie and Amitav Ghosh. These are authors I absolutely love and read every work of theirs. So I cannot say Jhumpa Lahiri again. So I mean, I cannot exactly say what is that one genre that you should be reading, but that whatever takes your fancy, but just read. Read as much as you can. So I hope that answers your question. And then there is one more I have here. Junaid says that he's writing a book, The Tragedy King. So Junaid, I'll wait to read The Tragedy King. I hope it's about Oedipus, or it's about things that we have studied. Then it'll be great fun. So oh yes, Gunjan tells me Shubharnalata, oh my God, all the three. And I've shed copious tears reading them. And Bokul Kotha was what?
Kotha, very, very nice. Yeah, ma'am, truly.
So yeah, so like I said, I read everything. I'm an absolute avid reader. Every book that you see behind me.
Yes, ma'am, it is a lot of books. Yeah.
And this is a minuscule part of I've grown up with a library. My grandmother had a library, so every book that I could find I used to read. So yeah, Junaid says till
Okay,
9.
thank you, Junaid, for confirming that. Yeah. So I was also wondering while this entire conversation was going on, let's take a little perspective from the other side of the table. What did the men in your life have to say about these stories, or how did they react? And I don't necessarily mean just the direct men, but relatives, friends, all the men that you know. What was
Uh,
the response from the other side?
so first, yeah. So I did know who's typing in from Redmi, but thanks for saying this. That it reminded you of Hajar Churashid Ma. That's fantastic. I'm so happy. Okay, to answer your question, Nilofer. So I got a response from a mail, uh, one of my erstwhile professors who picked up the book to read, and he wrote back saying that why aren't there good men in your book? There is only one good man, Jochon, and I'm not able to find any other good men. So I think that is a criticism which I've taken very seriously, though he meant it as jest, but I have taken it very seriously. So there will be more good men from now on. I think that is an area I don't explore. So I'm going to be looking at it. About the other men, how have they reacted? More or less nicely. I've had great reactions. Nobody has really. I've had great reactions.
Yeah. But I'm just a little curious here. I'm just curious to know that were there any reactions there where men particularly, or even women for that matter, probably a story made them sit back and think, self-reflect, or realize that kind of a feedback?
Uh, See, a lot of women have come back to me and said that they have felt, it's kind of resonated with them. From the men, I've not heard it yet. I'll have to. I think I've not spoken to too many men yet. So let me see. It has to. I think, yeah, the men in the audience, Junaid and others, tell me, did the book resonate with you all? Are you still waiting to read? But yes, we need to have that male perspective. So I don't know yet. You'll have to ask the men.
Right, right. Also, if there is any particular story in this entire series that stayed with you even after the book was published, got its entire response, you know, in a good way or a bad way, I don't really stayed with you.
So the one story which, uh, I mean, everybody keeps talking about Kaikeyi, but if I have to choose a favorite, I mean, I really can't choose a favorite, but if I have to, it will be the second wife. I hadn't named it the second wife. See, these are the changes that the editorial thing happens. I had called it simply Bela. I mean, I wouldn't even think of it as second wife. But then, these changes were made. But that story, it has remained with me because it's a story of a very, very powerful woman, and it's a story from the past. It's a story of a woman who enters into the independence struggle. It's a story of a woman who walks out of her married home. It's a story of a woman who refuses to be, though she lives all her life wearing a gungat, which she cannot remove because that's the diktat of the society. And yet, what happens behind that gungat is the actual story. So yes, that story, it haunts me, and in fact, yeah, now that you mention it, so I did get a feedback from a male friend. He said this. He said this reminded me of Tagore heroines, and it's just made me so happy. So how did I forget about? Yes, I did get a lot of male reaction. They have been very, very positive. They did say that they enjoyed. Yes, so this story has remained with me.
Right. Aruni actually asked a question. I would just rephrase that question a little. She basically wants to know about your life journey because she finds you an inspiration. I would just request if any of these stories, maybe one, maybe multiple, had any autobiographical elements to them, and how do you tame those autobiographical elements because you're somewhere barring a bit of your soul?
Uh, so yeah, Aruni. So Thanks for saying all those nice things, whatever that you say. So yes, a lot of the stories that I talk about, like I've said, they're a part of my life. They're a part of the society that I've grown up in. They're a part of who I see. So what my life journey has been like, I don't know if there's anything very great about my life journey, but I've been a bit of I've just studied all my life, I think. And but what I think today, at my ripe old age, what I can talk about, what I've learned from my life, if one can talk about that, or what literature has taught me. What literature has managed to teach me is that I am able to stand back and look at a life situation like I were a critic evaluating it, rather than get involved with it. So very often, if people are fighting or squabbling, or something is happening, I have a way of distancing myself from the situation and looking at the situation like I was reading a piece and I would analyze it. And that has allowed me to sort of keep a sort of distance from anything that I found negative, because I'm able to mentally disassociate myself from there. And what my books have given me is the greatest safe space right from my childhood. So, like I said, if somebody is scolding me and telling you, oh, what will happen to this girl? I am busy reading my famous five or my five find outers, and I'm planning my next excavation in my mind, and I'm not listening to a word of what that other person is saying. So, from when I was very small to my ripe old age now, books have provided that safe space for me. And they are. I mean, I'm not the religious kinds. I don't do gods and goddesses. So I think for me, the books are my religion. Are my is everything for me. So literature, books. That's the life I lead. So. And that space I hold very sacred to my heart. And so, yeah, that's about all the journey that I have done. I cannot boast of having done too much, but yeah, so all my life I've studied and then I've taught. And like I keep telling my all my classes that I do only three things in life: I read, I teach, and I do research. Only three things that I know how to do, and that sustains me. So, yeah, that's my story.
Um, so we have more questions about your book. So Kirti is interested to know, how did you go about the story of Kaikai? What inspired you to take a very different perspective on an epic?
Uh, Okay, before that, I think somebody asked me this question um, uh, about this question has come from wait, Gunjan. Gunjan asked me this question: what, according to you, is the definition of an empowered woman? Well, an empowered woman is somebody who has agency and who is brave enough to realize that agency, is all I'll say. I won't go into a very long definition because we are kind of running short of time. And then, okay, I didn't realize my old friend is here. So Manu says, being around you from our MPhil hostel days, knowing you from close quarters, I've always admired your style of writing, your immense love of reading. And what else does Manu write? Um, okay, so Manu has all lovely things to say, and I mean, I think in this crowd, she's known me for the longest. She and I lived in the same hostel in DU during our MPhil. And so sweet of you, Manu, to be part of this and to say all these nice things. And Aruni says all nice things. Sorry, Nilofer, in all this, I forgot the question that you were asking me. Yeah, you were asking me about Keke. Oh, Manu has just.
So Kirti had asked that before, that yes, it, yeah, so what inspired you to take a different perspective on an epic?
On an epic, yeah. So again, that is not something new that I've done. Mahashweta has done it, a brand new perspective to the epics. So the epics have always made me think. There are we've taught the Ramayana. We used to teach the Ramayana in DU once upon a time, and then one has grown up with the stories, and the stories have remained, and the conversations have remained. So I, even as a small child, I used to always wonder, if Surpanakha was telling the story, would it be the same as what we land up reading or knowing? Sita's story has been oft talked about. If Sita were to tell her story, or if Urmila were to tell her story, those stories would be entirely different from what the quote unquote mainstream rendition is like. So about Kaikeyi, she always fascinated me. See, it's always very easy to say that, oh, a stepmother is a bad woman. Secondly, that she used to be good. I remember somebody telling me this, when we used to discuss the Ramayana, that she was a good woman, but Manthara poisoned her mind, and that's why she did what she did. So then I thought to myself, is it so easy that you have some random character who just poisons your mind, and one fine day you wake up and you say, okay, this one needs to be banished and that one needs to be ousted? Is it that simple? And then I thought a little, I thought about Kaikeyi, and Kaikeyi kind of fascinated me, probably because she's reviled so much as the bad woman. And in my mind, I think I am partial to women. I don't like to think of them as bad. I like to think of them as good people, So I then thought to myself that here is Kaikeyi. She was a warrior queen. The Vardhan that she asked of Dashrath are what he had promised to her at a battlefield where she had saved him. So then what happened? And then she was a very, she belonged to a kingdom which was a very rich kingdom, almost parallelly rich to that of Ayodhya. So then what happened, that one fine day she should stoop to this. And that thought, I think, led me to resurrect her in a different avatar. And interestingly, Kaikeyi has been appreciated by many people. So I think it has made people think. So yeah, that's from where the thought process came in.
Right. In fact, what you said reminded me of a play that I saw long back during my college days in Bombay, which was performed by Kausar Padamsi's group Thespians. And they had taken a very similar take on Sita and Surpanakha, where ultimately both the characters would merge into one, that you're just seeing it from two different perspectives. So maybe the perspective matters at times.
Yes. So look at Surpanakha. I mean, I always think about it. How fair is it? I mean, all she does is she expresses her sexuality. She asks for a partner. So and just for saying that somebody cuts off her nose, I mean, come off it. I mean, so and there's so much brutality that is there in our epics, which we actually enjoy because we are told, okay, the heroes have done it. So the women do worry me in that sense, that I feel we need to look at them and retell their stories if we must. So yeah, I don't want to get into more.
Right. So Priscilla. So Priscilla has asked a question. Is Nobonita a previous generation woman or a present day woman?
Somewhat removed, in the sense that definitely not our generation, maybe a little before, but she could very well be a woman from today. I mean, there is, she could fit in. All these women, whether they're, they can fit in any time frame, so to say. So it's not the time frame that determines them. It is the action that determines them. So what Nobonita does, or what happens to her, can be happening to anybody at any point of time. So in this case, Nobonita belongs to a slightly, I mean, how I was thinking was she'd probably be in college in the 70s. That's the kind of story. I mean, that's the kind of setting where I put her into. But then all of us could be Navanitas.
Right. Right. Just going a little behind the scenes, were there also part of this collection, but which, for whatever reasons, had to be left out?
Sorry, Nilofer, what was that?
So, were there stories that you wished were part of this collection and which, for various reasons, had to be probably left out of this collection? Are there such stories still tucked
Yes.
away somewhere?
Yes. So there were stories, so I couldn't fit them all in, and then and because if it's a collection of short stories, then there has to be a thematic continuity. So there were stories which didn't exactly fit into this thematic sort of version. So those are there uh, for another book, I hope.
Yeah, so we can look forward to another piece like this.
Inshallah. Yes.
Fantastic. If anyone has any more questions, because we are closing in on the time,
Yes.
I can see a lot of people
messages here. Uh,
having a lot of very fantastic, beautiful things to say. And I'm sure you'll be pestered even after this session because everyone here knows you personally, so you'll get questions.
I'll be more than happy. I'll be more than happy to answer
But right
questions.
now, if
And like
if anyone has any questions,
Ma'am, I don't have a question, but I just want to thank you. See, we are all just the students, okay? And I just only shared the poster, and students are posting your complete book and images on their WhatsApp status. I was surprised that you are loved by students so much that students are posting your poster in their WhatsApp to ask their friends to join the session. Though we have exams and everything is going on, and tomorrow also some students have exam, but they have joined the session, and it was 1 hour has gone in such a way that everything was so inspiring. You are really an inspiration, ma'am, for many of us, and thanks for being with us. That's
my
really
God,
kind of
Junaid,
you.
you so made my day. You
Yeah,
made my year.
thank you, ma'am.
you
Thank you
guys
so
you
much.
guys make me who I am. So thank you so much. And for all of you who did all that, posted the book's picture and all that, I'm so grateful. I love you all, and you know that. So thank you so much. And I would love to see you all again on the 12th at Ambience Mall. If you all can come, it will be great fun. We can meet in person then and carry forward the discussion.
Today I'm regretting why I don't stay in Delhi, why I stay in Kolkata. And you know this thing. I have said this thing several times that I really want to attend that thing, but on my behalf, Bandita will do it. This
Yes.
time.
I was just about to chime in that I am just going to do that for you, Ritika. Don't you worry even one bit.
Your love and affection is so I so cherish it. And Nilofer, I meet them once a week, and that's about it. I mean, and this whole group I barely meet once a week, and we have 8 classes, I think, and that's it. And then this is the kind of outpouring of love that I get. So I must say I'm thoroughly blessed.
no, I can imagine that. I can totally imagine that because we had you in our first year and then you took your study break. So entire second year we didn't have you, and then you came back in the third year. So I can imagine how these bunch of people are reacting to you and why they may be reacting to you because after so many years, not that we've really been in touch on and off or we meet, but even after so many years, when I saw your name on a book, it was one of the happiest moments of my life. Or to have this conversation with you, it is such a wonderful experience.
Like
So I am totally on their side.
I must say I'm truly blessed. Is all I can say. So yeah, unless anyone has
Fantastic.
pressing,
Has any more questions? I think it's getting late for everyone,
yes, and they have
if
exams coming up, like Junaid just told me.
okay, okay. So in that case, I think we can wrap this up for today. And I'm
Yes,
sure this conversation will continue offline. We all have your number.
yes. I'll be more than happy.
Fan-
Conversation.
Fantastic. Yes, yes. Fantastic, fantastic. So can we wrap this up now? Kirti, do you want to just close this now? Like, have a few last words? Kirti, Alka, Junaid, anyone, if you just want to wrap this up.
Yeah. Actually, the thing is, ma'am, this whole session, it was really an inspiration for most of us, and I hope all those who were there, budding writers as well, one day they will write their part and they will do some great work. And the reason is that you have planted the seed of inspiration in their heart, that one day will rise as a plant for many others, and they will pioneer a great cause in their work. Thank you very much, man. A few people are like you in this world, and I hope you will stay with us after the course as well in such a certain way. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Junaid. Thank you, Nilofar. Thank you, Kirti, Alka, Ritika, everyone who's present here. You guys make me who I am. So humbled and so happy that you all spend this time with me. So
And ma'am, you know this already. We loved you 3000 and even more
more
than
than
that.
that.
Lots of congratulations, ma'am, on your book
Thank
release.
you. Thank you,
Lots of
Alka.
congrats.
Thank you so much. So, Alka, maybe you will get the recording in your email or something.
Ma'am, actually due to the network issue, you are again the host. In the mid of the meet, you became the host again.
Okay, great.
So you're going to get that. Yeah.
Okay, fair enough. Okay, then shall we close the meeting? Thank you so much,
Yeah,
Nilofar.
Yes.
sure.
Thanks so
Thank you,
much
ma'am.
for
Thank you. Thank
hosting.
you so much for
Thank you, ma'am, for
organizing
sparing your
this.
time. Thank you, ma'am.
Bye,
Happy,
Nilofar.
happy
Absolutely.
Women's
Thank
Day
you.
to everyone. Happy.
Happy Women's Day to
Happy
all.
Women's
Thank
Day,
you.
people.
Thank you,
Yes.
ma'am.
Why don't you all switch on your videos and let me get a picture? We could do that one last thing. Can some of you switch on your videos? So we could get a group pic. I can see Gunjan. Wait. No, this picture is not coming very nice because I just have people up there, 4 faces. But anyways, I hope we have the recording nevertheless. Chalo then, bye-bye and take care all of you.
Bye.
And,
Yes. Thank you,
and
Good
ma'am.
night, everyone.
Good
good
night.
night. Good night. Thanks so much, all of
Good
you.
night. Take care.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Thanks to you guys.
Bye.